This morning's sadness that Pope Francis' papacy has come to an end. The 88-year-old passing away early this morning after an extended illness, but just one day after a surprise appearance on Easter Sunday. Francis was the people's pope, reaching out, embracing, including the sick, the poor, the forgotten, pushing himself even as he became visibly frail, needing a cane and a wheelchair. Austin Ivory co-authored a book with Francis.
For him, being Pope is all in, and that means encountering people. He's performing the gospel, and without that, for him, there's no 20% papacy for him.
In more than a decade as Pope, Francis moved the Catholic Church away from the culture wars and back to its original mission of love and mercy, throwing open the doors of the Church to all. When he was elected in March 2013, few imagined he would be a transformative figure, preaching with actions and words. Saying, "Who am I to judge?" when asked about a gay priest at his first in-flight press conference. Declaring, "I am a sinner," accusing the Vatican bureaucracy he sought to reform of spiritual Alzheimer's, a plain-spokenness not always welcomed by church officials. A dramatic shift in style from his predecessor, Benedict XVI, who lived just steps away.
If only one word can define the papacy of Francis, is that it was very polarizing within the church, particularly because for 10 years of that papacy, former Pope Benedict was still alive.
The son of Italian immigrants, Francis was born Jorge Mario Bergoglio in Buenos Aires, Argentina. He studied to be a chemist, but was called to be a priest, rising through the ranks of the church to Cardinal of Buenos Aires, riding the subway, becoming the bishop of the slums, bringing to Rome a humility that would define his papacy, rejecting the Vatican's luxuries for a simpler style. He traveled to 67 nations, including a triumphant visit to the United States in 2015. Cardinal Timothy Dolan was the Pope's host in New York.
He loved New York. He had never been here. And he was kind of mesmerized by the size, and he was very, very moved by the enthusiasm of the welcome.
Francis was the first pontiff to address a joint meeting of Congress.
The land of the free and the home of the brave.
Urging lawmakers to apply the golden rule to those seeking a better life in the U.S.
Let us treat others with the same passion and compassion with which we want to be treated.
Yet Francis' tenure could not escape the scourge of child sex abuse. Shocking revelations in the U.S. and around the world led Francis to toughen church laws against such abuse to better protect children and vulnerable adults. He elevated the role of women in the church in a series of firsts, making a woman head of a Vatican department, giving a woman a vote in the Synod of Bishops, and appointing a woman to oversee the Vatican city-state. A man driven by his mission and the pressure of limited time, especially in recent years, suffering from illnesses after damage to his lungs as a young man. Earlier this year, Francis hospitalized for over a month with pneumonia, but returning to the public eye just weeks ago, greeting crowds, thanking his hospital staff, and meeting world leaders, including Vice President J.D. Vance yesterday. And on Easter, in St. Peter's Square, out in the Pope-mobile greeting the faithful, the last time the world would see this leader of the Catholic Church, who tried to keep this 2,000-year-old institution vital in our modern world by practicing what he preached.
So we have a modern church, but also all of these ancient rites and rituals that we're about to see unfold, the mourning of Pope Francis and then the choosing of a successor.
Right. And the first thing that will happen is the papal funeral, and that occurs usually 4 to 6 days afterwards. What will be different this time is that Francis streamlined the funeral. He didn't want it to be a funeral for a monarch or a great important man in the world. He wanted it to be for a pastor. So some of the pageantry that we saw when St. John Paul II died will be missing. And then he is not going to be buried in the Vatican as St. John Paul II was and as Pope Benedict was. He's going to be buried at Basilica Santa Maria Maggiore. My Italian's not very good. And it is there he wanted to go. And you see that is the basilica where he goes to pray before the picture of the Blessed Virgin, the Mother of Christ. And he did that before and after every trip. And he also did that when he left the hospital the last time. And it happens to be the church where St. Ignatius Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, Pope Francis' order, said his first Mass. So there's lots of significance in that.
Yeah, it's difficult to overstate the circumstances, the the circumstances to which he ascended. Talk a little bit, Anne, if you can, about that, and just the fact that really no one saw him coming.
No, and when he was elected, the cardinals at that time, they wanted the curia, the bureaucracy in Rome, to work for the global church instead of everybody else working for the curia. And so they elected Pope Francis, but nobody thought he would be this charismatic global figure that he turned out to be. And I think that what you saw is that when he was elected Pope, that job can either draw people in and make them very scared, or it frees them. And I think with Francis, it freed him to practice his faith as he wanted all of us to live it.
Yeah, and he really did do that. He was the servant leader.
He, absolutely.
Even washing the feet of parishioners. A lot of
prisoners.
Moments. Yes,
yeah, I mean, I think that was when on Holy Thursday we saw him make a trip to a jail in Rome. He couldn't wash the feet. He wasn't well enough to do that, but he spent 30 minutes with them. He wanted people to remember those on the periphery of society and not forget them.